Welcome to this week's episode of Crypto City. We've been moving right along here in season 8, and we're really grateful for all of the community support, all the people who come by and watch the show, the people watching it on YouTube, our sponsors and our team. It's been a great 8 seasons. We only have 3 weeks left in this one. Next week is going to be our final episode of the Training the Human Layer. It's part 4, so that will be really exciting to wrap that up and see it all come together. Tonight, we are actually going to be bringing in an artist that does work in both platforms. She's done a lot in Horizon, doing some stuff here in VR chat, and we're going to get to know a little bit about her journey and all the different things that she's doing here in VR. Again, remember, this season is about application, so we're talking a lot about people who have brought their real-world skills into VR, and we're also talking about people who have come in and learned some skills about VR that they've applied for their own, growth, whether it is in their actual skill set or something that they've learned and are delving into and expanding their skill sets. So if everyone will please take a moment to welcome to the stage for me, Angel the artist. Welcome. Hello. Welcome. I think you might be muted.
Definitely was muted. I love that.
It's okay. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Thank you for having me as well.
Of course. So I think that, a lot of us in VR know who you are, but there's some people out there watching on YouTube and stuff. So if you don't mind giving a little introduction as to, who you are and what you're, when it says Angel the artist, are we talking drawing, music, a little everything? Give us a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Angel, the artist of many, many medias, from painting, drawing, sculptors, tattooing, whatever, except for dancing, please. No, I have 2 left feet and I don't want to talk about it. I get asked about it a lot. So we're just going to leave it there. But yeah, any other art form, I got my hands in it, and sometimes it's just a hobby. Sometimes I make money from it. I'm fortunate enough to make money from it.
That's a great thing to be able to be, making a living on your passions. So you're known for your green color. So give us a little bit of background on that. Like, is this just your favorite color, or is there some meaning behind it too?
Yeah, there's a bit of lore. And a short answer, green is my safety color, it's my safe space. When I'm wearing it, when I'm surrounded by it, I just feel better. I can get through different scenarios better. Like if I'm surrounded by, green and black, that's my go-to combo. But if I'm surrounded by other colors, it's just like, okay, I need some help. Like I have to be wearing green in order to survive and social aspects. Honestly, I get real awkward if there's literally no green and I'm not wearing green for some crazy reason. A lot of people don't know that. That's actually a fun fact. But yeah, it just turned into a brand, and I ran with it because it's like, why not make something that mentally helps me, and also people automatically see, oh yeah, I see green, I know it's Angel. Or people will send me random things like, oh, this reminds me of you. It could be like a green hot dog. And it's just like the fact that, they can think of me just because of a color. It makes me feel really good. It makes me feel appreciated.
And I get that, being here in VR, there's a lot of identity that, people are trying to establish. In the real world, you have a little bit more marketing ability, you have different things you can do to really get your face out here. In VR, there are different things like you're known for green. I always have purple hair. Blue has her blue hair, like different things that when people see you, they identify you, which makes it kind of nice. Now, do you feel that that visual helps people, especially in VR, when they're trying to establish themselves as, whether it is a musician or a graphic artist or anything like that, so that they can kind of brand from that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every known artist has always stuck to some sort of niche. And it doesn't have to be something so strict and limited. It can be something broad and generalized. Just as long as something that you're connected to and you're consistent with it. And it's just like, okay, when I see this, I know this person. That should always be the goal when you're trying to market yourself, when you try to brand yourself, but also keep it true to you. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, clown shoes is my niche and I don't have not one pair, you know? So like, it's got to be something that is always safe to you and normal to you. So it doesn't feel fake to even brand or market off of it.
Absolutely. I get that completely. And I do see green clown shoes in your future now under the Christmas tree.
Definitely a photo shoot.
So let's talk a little bit about, your musical history and, coming into VR. Were you already, a rapper and a musician, or did you just come in here and see an opportunity?
Honestly, I always tell people this was literally therapy for me. I had no intention of coming in here and marketing myself, making money, and nothing like that. I literally just had a burning fiending, like, I need to create art. And at the time, I just didn't want to spend more money on paintbrushes and supplies and ink and continuing to keep doing that over and over. And here it was just like, with the platform Horizon Worlds at the time, you could just pop into build mode and just create it whatever your heart desire. You could see it in VR and live mode. And you can invite your friends. And at times, there were like 10 of us in edit mode. That's like first generation Horizon.
Right.
But like, it just felt good to just create. Yeah, sorry, my son is just trying to be in this interview with me. But it just felt good to create. And with what I was going through in real life, I needed that. I had no intention of like people being like, oh yeah, I need to purchase your assets. That was mind blowing to me. I was just like, you want to pay for something I created in this game? Like, it was like, it didn't make sense, but I quickly understood and I quickly learned, and figured that out. The music, it was also an accident. I wasn't taking music seriously at all. And I just happened to share one song in a club and everybody was just like, keep going, keep going. So when people know me for pushing my friends to be like, do the music. It's because I was that person, like real early on. I was that one person. I was just like, here's my little itty bitty song. And they was just like, are you kidding me? You need to, you're sleeping. What's going on? And I was just like, oh, all right. Well, if y'all want more, I'll keep doing it, and it's just always been like that. That's why I always thank people on this platform and in VR, because it's like, yeah, I don't even understand. I would not be this far with my craft if it wasn't for people that seeing me and understanding, like, I'm supporting this, I'm gonna push you and moving forward. And it's crazy that I had to find people from across the country to get that support rather than people that were local to me. But I'm grateful for it.
So we can see here, this is just a little touch of all the different, things that you have done with your music in here. I started taking some things from your Instagram and I was like, all right, we're going to have 42 slides. So that's not going to happen. So I narrowed it down, grabbed a few more recent things.
Yes. It's the same.
But,
okay.
You're doing things, over in Horizon with some of the concerts and stuff. And, it's interesting to me, we've had a lot of musicians on this show because this platform allows musicians so many different things to do. Whether you're hosting your own event, you're part of a bigger event, you can really gain an audience and grow, but you can also connect with people who might have the potential to bring you to the next level. There's been a lot of people here in VR who maybe didn't come in as a recording artist, but came in here and met some people who said, like you said, hey, you need to do more of this. And you were on like the Sampler, you were on, a bunch of different shows. So, and a bunch of different events. So you're getting views from people who might help you in your career. Do you see VR as, a really good tool for that? And what should artists do when they come in and, if they're not known, how do you get in there and get in front of all these people?
Honestly, Yes, VR was the biggest milestone in my career, hands down. I'd be lying if it was anything aside from that. Um, I have, like, in real life, I have, like I said, a bit of a social anxiety. So, it's harder for me to, have myself be out there and be as social as I am in here. Where, like, for some reason in VR, I can see people. I can, read things in here. So I know who to move forward with. I know who's gonna align with me. I know who I can help this person elevate us together, or elevate just them, whatever their craft is. If I have those tools, I've been, blessed with having, certain opportunities within my hands where I can actually give that on to other people, especially music artists with hidden visions. So it's just like, it's been a lot with VR. And to say the least, I'm very, very grateful for absolutely everyone that I've met on this platform, whether it's been a lesson learned or a opportunity earned. So yeah.
Let me ask you on the technical side of it. There's challenges for sure in VR when you're trying to perform music, and we have some people who've gotten microphones that connect into the headsets. We've got other people who live stream it, and there's tons of different ways to get your music played. But one of the most common is standing up on a stage with the music, streaming in, because that helps with the latency and all of that. Have you, in your time of doing music in here, have you seen the technology pushing forward, or do you think that it's been at a stalemate? In my opinion, I feel like it hasn't moved forward fast enough to get people to be able to perform cleanly here in VR.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely one of the setbacks in VR, not gonna lie. A lot of us want to be able to throw on their show track and be able to say their verses and have just the background vocals playing, but that latency is definitely hindering us in that aspect. When we do the lip syncing version, it's not like we're just like, yeah, this is easy money. Like, it's like, all right, this is the only way I can do this. You'll hear other artists that are like, I'm going to push through and just say my vocals, and it kind of hinders the show. So it's just like, you have to pick a struggle in that sense. And it's not something that we want to continue to move forward with. And I know that, there are people that are able to hook the music through their headsets and the music and stuff like that. But I am a starving artist, caps on starving. So, I gotta give the art as I can, as I can afford to. And, the goal is obviously to be able to do that and be able to give live performances in here. Because I know that that's also something for me to work on, for me to progress in. I'm also practicing performing in real life, which is
that was going to be my next question. Have you transferred these skills out? So you are trying to do that. Okay.
I just recently was at an event with Cosmic Kai, and we went and performed our music there. And it's not my first performance, but it's my first performance in a while. It's my first performance of this year. Let's just say that.
Wow. Okay.
And not to be cocky, but like the costume is set, the image is there, and the music is there, and from the waist up, my movements are there, but my feet are as I am in VR. They are planted in one spot, and I learned. I was just like, this is not VR. You need to move. Yeah, definitely got some stuff to still work. Yeah, definitely got some stuff to work on. Definitely a humbling experience as well. Because I know when I did in real life performances before, I struggled with that before, but I at least took a step or two, so it's one of those, like, you gotta keep doing it. That's the riding the bike again. So I have another in real life performance on the 22nd. So I'm hoping, and I'm not going to wear heels this time. I'm hoping that the goal is to take at least 3 steps, at least 3.
Okay. Baby steps. You got
Baby steps.
Baby steps. So let me ask you a question. Do you find that obviously we know the community is very supportive for music artists in here. Do you find that when you're up there, even if you're not verbally saying the songs, that the audience is still engaging and it's a good experience because you're still actually up in front of people?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I've felt that during the performance. I've felt that after the performance, talking to people, just hearing some of the feedback that I get from certain people, especially strangers. Oh my gosh. That's what really drives me in VR and why I do it in VR so much. Pause. I love being able to hear from someone who has literally never seen me, like this is their first impression of me, and being able to be like, wow, that was really dope, or I really felt that, especially if I'm doing singing, because I know that is something that I'm still very vulnerable with, and I say it's a challenge for me. Other people are in tune with my singing. I feel like I'm more of a rapper, but I try to do both. I try to be the better me every day, so I can't just stop one and just be like, I'm just a better rapper, when I could elevate both. So that's what I'm trying to stick to. But yeah.
So from there, you've actually progressed with shifting gears into podcasts and hosting, and some of it's been, and there's been different categories that you've been doing, but you are doing Hidden Vision with, you mentioned Cosmic Eye and DL Cadero. And, this is also incorporating music into it. So you were able to take something that you love and turn it into, a podcast here in VR. Tell us a little bit about, how that came about and what the goals are of that show.
Okay. Yeah. I also want to be very clear about Hidden Vision. Again, with everything that's been like successful in my life, that was very accidental. Hidden Vision did not start with me. It started with DL Cordero, Cosmic High, and Fade Game. And I came to their first episode and I just was like enamored. I was just like, this is absolutely fire. I was like, this whole concept is absolutely insane. I love it. I was in tune. They were, the first episode was very open. So everyone in the crowd was involved in the episode. People can talk about it. It was like an open forum. And, just me being a passionate artist, I was in tune with every song. I was like very hip to giving feedback. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And literally right after that episode ended, they were just like, "Are you on the show? Like, you're awesome." I was just like, yes, and I think a part of that, like feeling like, because I kind of got put on, within it, I wasn't like involved in the mindset or the brainstorming for it. It made me really go hard with my involvement in it. So, I do the camera work with Hidden Visions. I help with the graphic design. I help with the actual VR chat world that we're making for the concert that's happening on 420. Like, I went full force, and even still, I still be like, am I doing enough? And they're just like, please chill out. Like, I was like, okay, but it's that artist, that's the passion in me that's just like, I need to be pushing as much as I can out of myself into this as I possibly can, because I believe in it that much. And that's all I want. Like, especially when it's for artists, it's for underground artists. It's not for like trying to hype up anything mainstream. It's not just for people in the meta as well. Because there are people from like real life, just through social media, that have tackled on, people just randomly popping in from Twitch and, tuning in. Like, we're here for everybody, and we're sharing everybody's music, and people that like pay to skip, that money is going to another artist. So it's just like, everything is just, I can talk about it for hours. I'm sorry. I love the whole concept of it.
That's great. And it's awesome to see you, like you said, you came in here, you were doing one thing, the music kicked off, now it rolled into this. So you're seeing things that you're doing that you didn't even know you wanted to do. And now you're in love with it. So you've done a couple different podcasts on your own as well over there in Horizon, and you said Hidden Visions coming over here into VR chat with a concert on 420.
Yes, absolutely.
So now tell us a little bit about the other podcasts that you've been involved in before we start talking about your new one that's coming up.
Yes. So the first podcast that I did within Horizons was Learning Love. And it was geared on polyamorous relationships and non-monogamy, ethical, open relationships and stuff like that. And my co-host was Big, and we did a lot of we completed one whole season, and that was just honestly, it was phenomenal. We had guests that were either poly, they weren't poly, but they were open-minded. There were lots of laughs. But a lot of people, came to us and, said it was very informative. And I think just with wanting to switch it over to VR chat and then the music kind of getting in the way, kind of like push that in the back burner. Mm-hmm. And a lot of other things, but it's just, mm-hmm. It was one of those. I'm glad we got one season out the way, and it was for what it was. It was one of those you had to be there to kind of experience it, and I definitely loved that for that. It was one of those, a chapter in the book, mm-hmm. And now we're on to new chapters, which is
so this is your new show. Okay, so tell us about this, and when is it starting, and what's the concept?
So as far as when is it starting, there's definitely no due dates, just because me and my mom are kind of in training mode. She gets motion sickness, so okay. I'm prepping her so she can be able to, withstand being in VR, at least just to record an episode and then immediately get off. I'm not expecting her to, be on here consistently like I am. I pray. My father also told me he's getting a VR headset. So now me and her are like making sure we have him blocked for those time periods. But yeah, bloodline behavior is supposed to be a very unfiltered, very uncut, raw, just kind of open discussion between me and my mom. Fun fact, I'm not going to give too much detail, but me and my mom kind of decided of doing this podcast of just, well, let me just give context. Me and her are absolutely best friends. Very close, and like I tell her everything, she tells me everything. Like it's not one of those I'm not your little friends, that is my little friend, that's my little best friend, like that's everything, I'm her mini me, so I'm like the carbon copy, so we understand each other, we understand each other's problems, but we also can hold each other's delusions accountable, so we can bounce off of each other and help each other understand other people, like that. So I can confide in her about problems with friends, relationships, and everything. And it's not a bias, advice that comes my way. And I've also known in all my 20-something years of life that a lot of my friends don't have that type of relationship with their mom. Like the ones who that type of relationship with their mom or something similar or close, me and them are linked. We understand each other because we understand that that's actually a privilege. I've seen many women who are either estranged with their mother or constantly in competition with their mother or constantly, guilt trip with their mother, or there's some negative connotation with their parent where they can't just be like, close, or the very common answer is, oh, I love my mom to death, but I'm not talking to her about my problems, kind of thing. And I just feel like, I don't know, just because of how I grew up, it makes me sad. And it's not like I'm better than anyone because of that. I just want to have anyone that's willing to listen, to open their mind to, would you be open to, trying to invoke that relationship with your parent? And my mom is here to for the older generation, that, hey, would you be open to, breaking down that generational curse of, there has to be this strict barrier between parent and child. Like, there's so many parents that are like, oh my gosh, my child won't talk to me. But all the time you're like, oh, I'm the parent, you're the child, it's this and that third, Don't get me wrong, I'm not about to sit here with my mom and be like, listen, bitch, like, no, there is a boundary.
There's respect.
But there's respect. Absolutely. But I can absolutely tell her about any, red light, events that have happened. And she'll be like, okay, well, there was once this one time, we bouncing ideas off each other now at this point. So I want others to be able to, if they're open to it, listen, be able to maybe share that with their parent or share that with anyone who else is willing to listen and wanting to invoke more and better relationships with their parent, with their guardian, whether you were raised by your aunt. I'm not saying you and granny might, because I know a lot of people were raised by their grandmothers as well. So I don't know if you and granny can get down like that. But hey, who knows? If you can establish any type of real close, situation with somebody from a different generation, that is a blessed, privilege to have. Because now you have information from a different generation. They have information from a different information, and y'all building off of each other. And that's how progress happens. If you stay in your generation and have them stay in theirs, and this segregated, generation thing of, oh, I'm better than you and this, that, and third, nobody evolves. So connecting, creating those bridges is always going to elevate us. And that's the big picture of bloodline behavior. Don't get me wrong, we're going to get raunchy, we're going to get a little crazy, but that's the big picture.
No, I love that. As someone who is very estranged from both my parents, I love hearing people who have close relationships like that. And I, even when I was younger, before all of this now, I grew up in a very conservative household. So there was, never any talk about anything. Everything was like, behind closed doors and no sharing, and you could never come to your parents with anything, So I love the fact that there are people out there who do have that kind of close relationship with their family. So it's funny that you say that.
My mom is like that. That's how she was raised. She was raised in the very tight-knit religious Christian, household. So she didn't go outside for anything except for church. She was in church almost 5-6 days a week,
Oh, wow.
So she had that rebellious phase, and she basically made this vow to herself. She's like, when I have children, they are never going to have anything like this type of upbringing. And she held up on that promise. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't go to church. I still, she allowed me to go to church and see what, religion was like, and have me make my own decision of whether I wanted to continue to pursue and learn those things and understand that. And I ended up, becoming more of a spiritual person, not like the organized religion of Christianity. I do feel there's a higher being, but, I'm really glad that it's kind of like one of those, she definitely took that sacrifice in order for me to have this upbringing that I have. And I don't have to break down a generational curse for my children. I'm able to pass on the teachings that she already broke to my kids. So she kind of took that step for me. And a lot of people don't have that advantage. So for that, I'm eternally grateful for my mother, for sure.
Well, it'll be exciting to see this show. Is it going to be in VR chat or is it going to be in Horizon?
Yes, it's going to be in VR chat. I'm also creating the world for that. I've been going in with Blender and Unity, and it's literally been my first time with Unity with both of these worlds. So yeah, it's been another my most common word to use now. It's been a challenge, but if anything, it's what I've been doing since I've gotten in VR. It's always been challenge after challenge, and I've always been, pushing through. So we'll just continue to do that.
with that, you're really bringing creativity full circle because you're coming up with the concept and the idea. You're putting together the team to do it. You're creating the world, and then you're hosting the actual show itself. So like you're doing all of it. And I think that's one of the benefits of VR is that you can come in here with an idea and from soup to nuts, make it happen. And, you know, sometimes you're lucky to find team of people to work with like you do on Hidden Vision. Sometimes it's something you're doing on your own. And sometimes it's, you know, something that starts out alone and maybe grows as it goes. So I love that you've actually just seen this as a place to continue your artistry, regardless of what it is. So that's wonderful. You know, you mentioned a couple times about your family and your kids. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, you're doing all these different things in here, but you've also still got a family that you're taking care of as well. The work-life balance when it comes to VR and not being in the headset so much that you neglect the IRL. How do you balance that? What is your advice on that?
Ooh, well, boy, was it trial and error. When I first started, this is what people are calling first generation Horizon. When I first got on there, I was on there, I kid you not, 10, 11, 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Obviously not consistently, but I mean, like out of the day, like I was, you know, building on there and it was really bad. I mean, the positive thing that came out of it was, you know, all of the opportunities that, you know, came and I got to be in or be a part of and stuff like that. But I definitely had like an addicting, you know, tendency with making art, you know, or, you know, even the social aspect. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was constantly only in build mode. But a lot of people, you know, knew me, for being in social aspects and being quiet unless intoxication was involved. And then once the event was over, then I disappeared because I'm literally back in build mode. So it was something that I had to go through and then realize, oh gosh, I am not doing the work-life balance. So I was definitely hindering real life, to the point where it was just like the only reason I was coming up out of headset was to feed my children, bathe my children, make sure they were straight. And then once that was, all those boxes were checked, not even looking towards myself, it was just like, all right, back in headset. Because to me, I thought I was checking my box by being in headset. I thought I was, you know, working, building myself or building my craft or helping with my mental health, you know, and not seeing that, you know, I was kind of wearing blinders to that. And that's just more of a late discovery of thinking about it in the long run of looking back and seeing the timeline. But as of today, a lot of people, they don't see me on as much. And that's because, you know, I still have to juggle that. I come on here on Tuesdays for the Hidden Vision. You know, I'm strategically deciding on what this next day of the week is for bloodline behavior to make sure that I'm not falling off on any type of routine that I have already set in motion. And that was another thing that I definitely had to figure out, because back when I first started, there was no routine. It was literally go with the flow and then keep going and just whatever is failing, just pick your head up and then keep moving forward. Where now everything is so set in a box. Like, okay, you want to do an event? Okay, if it's not within this time frame, I can't do it. Where back then I'd have been like, oh, let me see if I can move something around, you know, trying to cater as best as I could. Where now it's like, this is the boundary. If it's not within this, I cannot do it. And I apologize. It's nothing personal, whatever, you know, and you can't please everyone. So you still sometimes get the negative feedback. And it's just like, you have to remember, I'm not doing this to spite you. I'm doing this to help me. And that's where I always have to lean towards and move forward with.
I can respect that very much, because there's a lot of people who come in here and this is like, you know, it's the biggest part of their life. They come in, a lot of people who were stuck in the house during COVID and things like that just were in here every single day. And then when life shifted back and everything was opened back up again, a huge chunk of people like went back to real life and came in here, as it was convenient because they had things they had to do. Then there were other people who were still in here, like pretty much not 24/7, but close to it, and not realizing that they were like self-isolating from everything else. But you're also, it becomes a very addictive lifestyle being in here because you can bounce around and do absolutely anything you want to do. You can travel, you can go to nightclubs, you can go out to eat, you can do all the different things. There's awesome things you can do, but if you don't put some boundaries in, you end up becoming so immersed in here that reality doesn't exist anymore. And so I think it's a great thing that you saw that and decided to put the boundaries in. And especially for people with families and kids. And if you live alone, it's a little different because this becomes your family and it becomes, a big part of it. But I have heard of stories of several people who, whether they're married or have children, and they spend so much time in here that they're detaching from their loved ones. And that's also something that you don't see when you're doing it, but other people can see it. So congratulations on noticing that before it became an issue. So that's a good thing. Let's talk a little bit about what's next for you. So you've got the talk show coming up. Are there any other things that you want to experience in here or take advantage of? I know you do a lot of, like you said, the artistic stuff with the tattoos, with your graphic arts and designs. I know you have, the creator program over in Horizon. Is there anything else you'd like to do in here?
I think it's just more full force of everything I'm already doing. I'm just going twice as hard with the music. I just dropped a song, The Type of, April 10th, and then me and DL Cordero are dropping another song, The Knockout, that's coming out April 21st. And then me, DL Cordero, and Cosmic Kai are working on a project, Pushing Boulders. So I'm not stopping when it comes to the music, that's for certain. And then just going really hard and seeing where we can progress with Hidden Visions. Cause, it's just started at first with just us listening to music and reviewing it. Now we're able to throw concerts for artists and pay them, pay DJs, pay hosts, pay dancers. And we're trying to see where that can lead us, in real life, so all of that is being streamlined for this year. With me and my mom doing the podcast, getting, seeing what that can invoke in terms of sponsorships, in terms of popular guests or special guests on the show, just everything. Tattoos, trying to find a better space, trying to do more sculptures, trying to do more rugs, trying to do everything, painting, getting more supplies, making sure my kids are in tune to me persevering with whatever hardships I've been facing within these past couple of years. Like, everything has been a roller coaster, but me doing art and me continuing to stay passionate and staying resilient and having this outlet to be able to process emotions is always going to be the goal in terms of just moving forward. Every day is just be better than I was yesterday. Be better than I was yesterday. So that's always going to be
that should always be the mission. That should always be the mission. Well, I appreciate you coming on here and telling us all about the things that you've been doing. I love seeing the growth, and I love that you came in here and saw possibilities and opportunities and you capitalized on them. And along the way, you learned the techniques for building over in Horizon. You're learning Unity now to build worlds over here. And like you said, it can be challenging, but you're continuing on with it. And at the same time, honing in your skills and your passions for all the different artistries that you are enjoying. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. Is there anything else you'd like to let us know?
Well, stay tuned for more Hidden Visions. If you got any music, we stream on Tuesdays, 9:30 Eastern. Send your music to us, please. Anything you got. You can be eligible for being one of the performers at our concerts. And like I said, all of our profits that we get, whether it's from merch, whether from people sending in skip money or back-to-back money. All of that is going to the artists that we want to feature and promote. So if you want to be a part of that, that's something that we're trying to make really big. And that's always going to be what I want to plug in. I guess, you can also listen to my music if you want, Angel on all platforms. But for sure, it's always going to be, Hidden Visions. I want to get the promo to any type of underground artist. I don't listen to mainstream. People ask me new songs that I listen to. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know these people. Like, I'm listening to Cosmic Kai and myself. Like, I'm listening to Loud. Like, so that's all I want to do in here.
I love that. Well, thank you again for sharing all of that. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, next week we're going to have episode 4 of The Human Layer. It'll be the final in the series of learning, to use AI as your teammate as opposed to just a tool. There's so much that you can do with it, and we've been talking about it, and we'll wrap that up next week. Before we go, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. We've got DJ Marcus J, who has been with us for so long and done so many things also here in the metaverse between Mr. Block Party Radio, the worlds he's created, and also he runs our camera system and helps us put out the videos from the show. So we appreciate him. And Kip VR built this world, has built so many worlds here in the metaverse. If you've seen a Kip world, he's got very good style. And we've got Rich from Hume AI and Lux VR, who is helping people with their e-commerce marketing and websites. And you can get more information if you're here in the audience up there on Higher Level, the program that he's helping teach people how to use. We got Cybershay VR in here in the metaverse, learning how to do things, executing everything she learns how to do, part of the Block Collective and an author of, telling people how to keep your kids safe when they're here on the internet. And we've got Tinker Love 1980 from the Beauty of Tink. She's doing events both in the real world and here in VR. She's, helping promote people with the events that they're doing, just helping to promote community. And we've got Fuchsia from the Virtual Fitness Group, helping people get fit, have fun while they're doing it. They call her the Virtual Fitness Bully, but really, she's just trying to get people to stay with the program. It's a lot of fun. She does Fit XR. There's some Les Mills, Supernatural, all different things. All Supernatural going away. But there's a few other ones that they're doing, and I'm part of the group, and I absolutely love it. So if you want to work out with a great group of people, definitely join. And then we have Ice Cold Stacks, who is from the Ice House Casino and Lounge, who's helping people with marketing, helping artists get recognized and get to put their music out there. And she's also with Ty Sky, the DJ at BYOB events, putting out events that are live streaming for gamers, comedy shows. There's all different types of events coming out. And you want to check out all of them. All of this, the show and these slides are in the Discord after the show. So make sure you go on there. If you want to connect with anyone, you can always hit me up in my DMs and I can give you out their socials so that you can connect with them and see if they can help you with the stuff you're trying to take care of here in the metaverse and grow your brand, grow your skills, and grow your passion, because that is important. You need to love what you're doing. So thank you again, Angel. Thank you to Blue for helping us with the slides and keeping the show running. Thank you to DJ Marcus running the cameras. And thank you to all of you for being here tonight. See you next week. Bye. And cut. That was great. Thank you so much. That was a great interview. I loved hearing all of that.